Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Vicki-Lynne. So glad you could join me. If you are one of my subscribers, thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody who drops back all the time to check out my videos. If you are new to my channel, thank you so much for clicking on this video. And again, my name is Vicki-Lynne. A little bit about myself. I'm following the Starch Solution. I am on a personal journey to move my body every day, lower my cholesterol, get healthy, and I'm doing that by following the Starch Solution and keeping all my meals oil-free. And if that interests you, I do meal preps, grocery hauls, I do some restaurant reviews, we travel a lot, so we do some vegan meals here and there. So if that interests you, please hit that subscribe button so you're always notified every time one of my videos go up. And in 2023, I'm bringing the flavor, boys and girls. That's right. Let's make 2023 flavorful, because I must say, I think most of my videos are kind of flavorful. We do like to get up a notch around here, but let's keep that going. So I have some great recipes for you. We can turn down the volume a little bit. Obviously, I have to be careful with some of the flavors, but we are going to have everything very tasty this year. So let's get into the kitchen and let's get going on this meal prep. I have 3 great dishes for you. And guess what? Only one of them is potatoes this time, guys. Yes, we have a rice dish and we have Brussels sprouts and butternut squash. I know, not everything is potatoes this time. I am trying to switch it up for everybody this year. I am trying to diversify and try to mix it up and stay away from the potatoes all the time. So let's get into it. So our first recipe is this delicious, very easy, roasted butternut squash and Brussels sprout dish. So super simple. And I'm going to give you different options depending if you're doing maximum weight loss or just doing the regular starch solution. Super simple. You do whatever works for you, and I'm going to try to do that with all my recipes. So again, whether you're doing the starch solution, and some of them you can even verb into, like if you're just vegan and you're not even doing the starch solution, again, they're not going to have oil in them, but we're just going to work with that. So everybody will be happy, and you just do whatever works best for you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work with our butternut squash. And again, the best way to work with the butternut squash is to make sure that the back end is flat. Makes it easier to cut and stuff. I usually find that cutting it in half just makes it a little bit easier to deal with. Now, you could get a vegetable peeler and peel it. I find that a little bit harder, especially for my hands. So I'm just going to very lightly kind of peel it this way. But you do what works for you. And I'm going to do what works for me. See, we can all coexist and be happy. And then, so we're just going to take our butternut squash, we're going to peel it, and we're going to cube it into bite-sized pieces. Super simple. So our Brussels sprouts are clean. We're just going to put them in a pan. Make sure you get all those little leaves out. Now, the fact that we wash them, I like to turn them over so the flat sides will caramelize on the pan. They don't all have to be turned over, but I just find that they caramelize a little bit better. And again, on this one, a little salt and pepper, spread them out. And this one, we're going to put a little bit of garlic. Going to give us a sweet and savory in this recipe. Now, these are going to go in the oven. We're going to brown those. So our timer's gone off. We're just going to give everything a check and toss everything. So let's check our Brussels sprouts first. So they're caramelized, brown. See how tender they are. Yeah, so those are cooked. We're gonna let those be. Now we're gonna check our butternut squash. We're gonna give that a little toss. And that looks like it's cooked too. Very tender. Everything's cooked. We are going to let this cool down before we toss this all together. So let's assemble our salad. Super simple. I like to kind of like, if I'm using a large bowl, you could do it right on the pan if you want. I'm just going to kind of put it in a bowl. And I like to layer it. Just makes tossing it a little bit easier later. And then to that, we're going to add in some cranberries, just some dried cranberries. I'm going to add some pecans. I'm just going to add a few, just for that crunch. We want to add a little bit of crunch. I'm going to leave actually the pumpkin, I'll put a little bit of pumpkin seed in, but I'm going to use that at the end just to top it, just to make it look all pretty. We're going to do a little bit of salt and pepper on the top. And just a fresh drizzle of maple syrup. Give this a gentle toss just to incorporate everything. And then I would just top it gently with a little bit of the pumpkin seeds and a few more of the pecans. Again, just for the crunch. If you're doing the maximum weight loss, leave the nuts off if that's what you want. But again, for the amount of the salad, a couple of nuts is fine. So the first thing we're going to do to start our Bombay potatoes is we're going to start with our saute feature. We want to get our pot hot because we have our spices, a couple of our spices to start with, and we have some mustard seed and some cumin seed, and we're going to toast our seeds. Now we're not using oil, so we want to make sure our pot is hot. And while we're waiting for that to happen, again, if you're using the stove, you're just going to get a frying pan. We're going to dry saute these. And in the meantime, while we're waiting for that to get hot, we're just going to cut up an onion, and I'm going to try not to cry. And we're just going to dice this. Super simple. And again, if you've been here before, you know I'm going to take my skins, put them aside, and I'm going to throw those in the freezer. And I save all my skins for my vegetables. And when I have enough, I make them into soup stock. I try not to let anything go to waste. I try to reuse whatever I can, any little nubs, bumps. Everything is so expensive nowadays. I try not to throw anything out without using it to its full potential. Actually, you can leave me a comment down below. What do you think has risen in cost so much or has surprised you so much recently at the supermarket? I just actually, I wasn't really, I think because, I eat a lot of like rice and potatoes and things haven't really seemed too bad. but I have noticed that the prices have really risen. So what we're going to do, the pot's starting to heat, we're going to put our seeds in there. And then I'm going to move these onions away because I am tearing until I need them. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to gently toast those. And we're just going to toast our seeds until they just start popping, and these ones are just starting to pop. That's all we want. We want them to be fragrant. Now we're going to brown our onion. And I'm just going to add a little splash of water. We don't want it to burn. We want to just cook them until they're tender. Now we're going to add the rest of our ingredients, which are some crushed tomatoes. A can of coconut milk. I'm using light coconut milk. You could use coconut cream. You could use full fat coconut milk, totally up to you. The rest of our spices, which is turmeric and garam masala. And don't you worry guys, the recipe will always be down below. And I'm just using a little bag of baby potatoes. We're gonna put that all in. Give it a little stir. Now, if you're in a hurry, you could use your Instant Pot feature, but sometimes when you have tomatoes in your Instant Pot, you do get an alarm. Just going to get all that tomato. And now we're just going to put our lid on. And so now we're just going to let that cook until the potatoes are tender, which should be about 4 hours, depending on your slow cooker. Now, if your slow cooker allows you to bump it up to high, you could cook it on high. And if you're in a hurry, you can always try it in your Instant Pot. If you're cooking this in the oven, you can do it at 350, 375. Probably 2 hours would probably do it to cook those baby potatoes or less. So our potatoes are done. If you could smell how good those smell right now, totally intoxicating. They're nice and tender. And now to finish this off, we are just going to throw in a couple of handfuls of spinach. And we're going to let that wilt down. Just stir that in. We're going to have our greens. This would be great over rice, or because we have all that nice juice. There we go. And our Bombay potatoes are done. So we have our Bombay potatoes. Now, this would be awesome because we have all of this great juice over rice. I'm serving it over quinoa. You know me, I like my quinoa. But the flavors are delicious. If you want a little bit of extra heat, you can put a little bit of red pepper flake, a little cayenne. But I think the flavors are just perfect. But with all my recipes, you play with it. But this is delicious. Hope you enjoy this one. For our last recipe, we're going to do a rice and lentil bake. It's going to be super simple. We're going to start with our casserole dish. Just put that aside. We're going to just chop up an onion. And I'm actually just going to use half an onion. And this one we're going to preheat our oven to 350. This one is super simple, and again, save your scraps because we're going to need vegetable broth. Now, I'm actually just using Better Than Bouillon broth today because I haven't made any broth yet. Save that scrap too. So I had a viewer tell me, you know how I cry all the time when I do onions? She said to try white onions, and you know what? I think she's right. I'm doing pretty well with that. So thank you for that tip, because that actually worked. So this is a super easy recipe. We're gonna take a cup of rice. And again, I just buy mine kind of in a big container and I just store it. And we're going to use brown lentils or green lentils, whatever you want. Get them at the dollar store. Again, this is a super budget-friendly dish, guys. Put that in there with your onions. I'm using a leftover jar of crushed tomatoes. You need about 14 ounces, so this was half of a large can, which is about 14 ounces. And again, I like to try to find recipes to use up what I have in my fridge, so this was left over from another recipe, but you could just use like a regular small can of crushed tomatoes or whatever else that you have, tomato sauce. Again, you can improvise. And now I'm using about 4 cups of vegetable broth. So this is the better than bouillon. And I'm adding in regular water. I doubled up the broth. I only have a 2-cup measuring cup. The other ones are all too big. Just gonna stir that. Make sure you have a nice deep dish to cook this in. And again, super, super simple. I'm gonna move that aside because we're gonna do some herbs. I have my fresh basil. I'm gonna mix that in. And I have some wonderful fresh rosemary that we're gonna chop very, very fine. Still smelling. Garlic. You use fresh garlic. I'm just going to use granulated garlic. And a little bit of salt. Give that a stir. There you go. Our oven is all ready. So now we're going to put the lid on this. We're going to put this in the oven. It does take about an hour and a half. And every half hour you want to go in and give that a stir just to make sure that it does not stick. And you just want it to cook it until the rice is cooked and the lentils are tender. Super simple, guys, and budget friendly.